In Year 5, the children will be multiplying by 10, 100 and 1,000. They will be having the understanding that the digits move. So they might have 32 multiplied by 10. And rather than saying they just add a 0, they will slide the digits one space and then they'll use 0 as a placeholder. And the reason that we don't say that we just add a 0 is because when we come to decimal numbers, if the children had 0.3 and they were going to times that by 10, if they just added a 0, they would still have 0.3. So it's really important that the children understand it as actually moving the digits. So they've moved that along and they don't actually need a 0 because it just becomes the unit or the ones 3. So they will also times by 100, so they may have 3.2 and they're going to times that by 100, so they're going to move that 2 spaces because 100 has 2 zeros. And this time they'll need to put a placeholder here, change that into a 1 because we call those ones now. So that will then become 320. They may be multiplying by 1,000, and when we're multiplying by 1,000 we're going to move the digits 3 spaces because there are 3 zeros. So 1, 2, 3. And this time they need to put down 2 placeholders in the tens and the ones column. The children will also be recalling prime numbers up to 19 and identifying prime numbers up to 100. They will have an understanding that a prime number is a number that can only be divided by 1 and itself. So for example 13 would be a prime number because it can only be divided by 1 and 13, and 13 isn't in any other times table apart from 1 and 13, therefore it's a prime number. The children will be completing long multiplication questions, so they will progress to 4 digits times by 2 digits. I'll show you one to start with which we perhaps might have a 4-digit number. So 1,144, which can be seen from the place value counters here, and we're going to multiply this by 8. And the children may want to use place value counters in order to help them to do this, although some children will be able to just do this mentally now. So the children will be continuing to use what we call the grid method, so they will partition these numbers out. So we will have 1,000, 140 and 4, and we're multiplying by 8. So they will do 1,000 multiplied by 8 would be 8,000. 100 multiplied by 8 would be 800. 40 multiplied by 8 would be 320. They would use their knowledge of 4 times 8 is 32, and then they would make that 10 times bigger by sliding the digits one space. And 8 times 4 is 32. They would then recombine to get the total 9,152. They will be also writing this out using the more formal method of multiplication, and at this point it would still be expanded, so they would have 1,144 and multiplying by 8, and they're going to start first of all with the ones. So we've got 4 times 8, which is 32, and then move on to the tens. So 4 times 8 is 32 again, but this time we're looking at the tens column, so we're going to place our placeholder here because it's actually 40 times 8, which would be 320. We're now moving on to the hundreds, so it's 1 times 8, but we're actually talking about 100 times 8, so because we're now working into the hundreds, we're going to put our zeros down here. And now moving on to the thousands, which would be 8 thousand. And then we can recombine by adding all of these together. So we've got 2 in the ones column, 5 in the tens column. We've got 8 and 3, which will be 11. Sorry. So we put the 1 here, and then exchange this one there, and then we've got 9 altogether in the thousands. So 9,152.